What's up guys, my name is Will Ross. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you would, please leave a like and subscribe. That would really help me out, and I'm trying to grow this channel as big as I possibly can. Also, another thing I want to talk about really quick, so I actually run a car themed Instagram page called Greenlight Apex. I'm really excited to announce that I actually launched a separate YouTube channel for it, just posting like kind of shorter YouTube shorts and smaller videos and things like that. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave a link in the description. Go check that out and follow me on Instagram as well. That would be much appreciated. I'm trying to grow that one as well. Go show some support on that page. Just like I said earlier, some like JDM car stuff, supercar stuff, kind of like rollout clips, just smaller stuff to kind of like, you know, put in your feed. So if you would check that out, that would be much appreciated. So a common question in the car community and just in society in general is, what can I buy for the least amount of money that looks like I paid top dollar for? Well, this is a super common question in the car community because there's a lot of options for cheap that make you look pretty rich. And in this list, I'm going to cover 4 really good cars that you could buy for relatively cheap that'll make you look like you spent 6 figures for it. I'm also going to throw in an honorable mention at the end, so stay tuned to find out what that one is. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. Starting off this list, I'm going to say the Infiniti G37 is a great car that you can get for relatively cheap that'll definitely make you look like you make a lot of money. Unlike the G35, which is the G37's little brother, this is made for a more luxurious feel. The G35 is more sports car feel, and the G37 definitely still has that aspect, but this one comes with a more luxurious feel and is made for kind of the more mature businessman. I also personally like the aesthetics more on the G37 than the G35. It just seems like the design is more slick and aerodynamic, and I really like the tail lights compared to the G35. I just think it's a really good looking car in general. On top of that, it's Infiniti, so it's Nissan's luxury brand. That means that you're getting a fairly reliable car. When you're buying this, you don't really have to worry too much about it breaking down on you randomly. Nissan and Infiniti are pretty reliable brands. History has shown, so that's definitely a plus in that kind of category. While the aesthetics are definitely cool in this car, that's not the only thing that shines about this car. There's some stuff under the hood that's pretty impressive. This thing puts out 325 horsepower on a 3.7 liter V6 engine. And that is tied to an automatic transmission or a manual transmission, whichever one you want to go with. I know more casual people want to go with an automatic, but if you're a car enthusiast like me, I like the manual option, and this gives you that option, so that's definitely a plus. On top of all this, it's a very tunable and modifiable car. People can tune this car up to 500, 600 horsepower, and this thing can go, as well as modifying it aesthetically. This thing with a wide body kit looks pretty insane. I haven't seen too many of them, but I've definitely seen them online. And I think it's a really good looking car when it's modified. So number 1 on my list is the Infiniti G37. Number 2 on my list, I'm going to go with the BMW M3, specifically the E36. So the E36 was made from 1995 to 1999. And I think it really just captures that late 90s car German feel. I really like the way that this thing looks. It looks really, really clean. And the predecessor, the E30, has actually skyrocketed in value over the past year. And I think that the E36 is definitely going to as well soon, so that is a plus. These things can be bought for under $20,000, and for what you're getting for under $20,000, that late 90s luxury sports car feel, I think it's definitely worth it. You can get an automatic transmission or a manual transmission, and this thing also puts out 189 horsepower, which is not a lot, but this is not a fastest car list. This is a cars that will make you look rich list. And the BMW M3 E36 definitely deserves a spot on this list. In my opinion, this is the best looking car on the list. I just really like the way that it has that kind of classic feel. While not being too old, it's also not a brand new car by any means. And you can drive it around and people are going to turn their heads no matter where you go. I personally love seeing these on the road. E36 is my favorite BMW, and that's why I think it deserves a spot on this list. Another plus to this is that it comes in a convertible option, so if you like putting the top down, you can get a convertible. It might be hard to get a manual and a convertible. You might have to pay a little bit over 20, but I think it's definitely worth it for a low mileage car at least. And if you can find one in the signature BMW M3 blue, that is just a plus. You're definitely going to be paying top dollar for it, but considering that the E30 has gone up in value a lot in the past year, I think the E36 is going to do the same, and that signature blue is definitely going to go along with that. And I think it's just going to help the value even more. So if you're interested in investing in a car rather than driving it and modifying it, the E36 is probably the best option on this list, considering what the predecessors have gone through and what the E36 is most likely going to go through. So that's number 2 on my list, the BMW M3 E36 made from 1995 to 1999. Next car on my list is the 2008 Jaguar XK. So this one flies under the radar, definitely. I didn't really know about this car until recently, and I was just looking through a blog and I found it. But I think this thing really looks insane. I think it's on the list, probably screams money more than anything else. This thing comes in a convertible drop top along with a V8 engine, which is pretty insane. I just love the way this thing looks on the road. I think if you're picking up a date and you're trying to impress a girl, this is definitely the one on the list you need to buy. On top of having a V8, on top of being a convertible and a Jaguar, you can find this thing for $10,000 to $20,000, which I think is insane. As far as reliability, this thing might not be the most reliable on the list, but for $10,000 to $20,000 and what you're getting, I think it's a great value, especially if you're trying to flex on your friends with a luxury convertible V8 car. So this thing was made from 1997 to 2015, and I kind of picked the 2008 version. I think it's the cheapest one on this list. I think it's the cheapest one out of the ones that were produced in this era. I'm not really sure why Jaguar decided to cut the cord in 2015, but I like the way this thing looks, and that's what we're all about on this list. So at number 3 on this list, I'm gonna go with the Jaguar XK, specifically the 2008 Jaguar XK. The 4th car on my list, I'm going to say, is the 2002 Maserati Spider. Maseratis over the past couple decades have actually been known for depreciating, so if you're not really worried about losing value on the car, Maserati is the perfect way to go. These things MSRP'd at around $90,000 when they were released, and now you can get one for under $20K. But matched with the interior leather and the brand name of Maserati, this one's kind of hard to beat. People are going to assume that you own a Fortune 500 company if you're driving this thing around. Maseratis just give that luxurious Italian vibe that can't be matched anywhere else. So it's a Maserati, it's a drop top. What else do you get? Well, you get 390 horsepower along with a V8 engine. Yeah, that's pretty insane for a 2002 coupe sports car. So along with driving a drop top and looking rich, you also are pretty much guaranteed to blow by anybody on the road that you line up with. If I'm not mistaken, the Maserati Spider is the fastest one on this list, stock. Other things like the G37 and the E36 can be modified to be faster, obviously, but the Spider stock with 390 horsepower and a V8 engine is pretty insane. Along with the interior leather and the V8 and the 390 horsepower, this thing comes in many colors. There's a lot of options for this thing. This thing was mass produced in the early 2000s and up until 2015. So if you're seriously looking for a luxury car and don't want to spend too much money, this is a perfect option for you to look at, considering that it's sold from $10,000 to $20,000 and it has a ton of different colors and options for you to choose from. The only thing I will warn you about with the Maserati Spider, and Maseratis in general, is that they're not the most reliable. I know Maserati engines have been known to kind of crap out. Fairly early on, I've heard of people driving Maseratis and them crapping out under 100,000 miles. So if you're not too worried about that and you're looking for something temporary to drive for a year or two, I think this is actually a perfect option, because long term I wouldn't really recommend the Spider as a daily for the next 10 to 20 years. Honestly, I don't even think it'll last that long, but I think it's a perfect option for a temporary high schooler or even college student that wants a little bit of fun from like 1 to 5 years. So that wraps up my list, but I want to give an honorable mention, and that's the G35 with a Vader kit. So I know these have actually gone up really crazy in value over the past 10 years, but I wanted to throw this in there because at one point you could buy a G35 for $4,000, put on the Vader kit for $11,000, and you had a supercar-esque car for $15,000. I'll throw up some pictures and videos here, but the Vader kit looks insane. This was used in the Batman movie. The Joker's car was a G35 Vader. Along with Shaq owns a Vader kit. It's pretty cool that a G35 can turn into something this kind of crazy. So this is my honorable mention. I wanted to talk about it for just a second. I think these things looked insane. I've actually had the pleasure of seeing one of these in person. I had no idea what it was at first. A couple years ago, I went to Caffeine and Exotics in Atlanta, and I saw one of these things, and I just had no idea what it was, and my friend told me it was G35, and my jaw dropped. This thing is pretty insane. I think they kind of go for 150 to 200 now, but in the resale market, I'm not really sure what these are like, so maybe you can find one for less. I definitely don't think it's worth that $150,000, but considering that you could buy one at one point for $20,000, $15,000, it's pretty insane. I wanted to throw on this list. But that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you did click on this video, remember to like and subscribe and check out my new channel in the description box below. That would mean a ton to me. I love pushing out these videos whenever I can and bringing you guys the best automotive content that I can. There's some big things in the future that I'm really excited about, so subscribe if you want to see that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.